Here's what nobody tells you. That reaction isn't about what they said. It's about something underneath, something that feels like it's being threatened. And until you see what that thing actually is, you're going to keep reacting the same way every time. Now, defensiveness isn't a character flaw. It's not even a personality trait. It is a protection response. And what it's protecting isn't what most people assume. Most people figure they're defending their opinion, or their position, or the thing they just said. But that's almost never actually what's happening. So that picture, it's not just something you think about yourself, it's something that you feel. It lives somewhere in the body. It's the ground you stand on. So when someone challenges something that touches that picture, even gently, even by accident, it doesn't land as a question, it lands as a threat. And from what I understand, your nervous system flags it before your mind even catches up. Not a threat to your argument, a threat to you. Picture an iceberg. The part above the waterline, that's what everybody sees. That's your public-facing side. The social mask, the version of yourself that you present to the world. Psychology calls this the persona. It's how you want to be seen. Competent, together, or in control. Below the waterline, that's where most of the iceberg actually lives, and that's where things get interesting. Just beneath the surface is what's called the ego. That's your constructed sense of self, the I that you believe yourself to be. It's made up of your thoughts about yourself, your beliefs, your personal history. I'm the kind of person who, fill in that however it fits for you. And deeper still, at the bottom is the shadow. The thoughts, feelings, and impulses that got pushed down. The stuff you really don't want to look at. The stuff you definitely don't want anyone else to see. And here's what matters. Your persona, the mask above the waterline, is built on the ego underneath it. And so when something threatens the ego, the whole structure wobbles, the mask slips, and you react fast before you've had time to think. Now, I want to be clear about something because this next part gets misunderstood a lot. Ego isn't your enemy. This isn't one of those destroy your ego conversations. Your ego serves a real function. It gives you a framework to navigate the world. It helps you set limits. It helps you make choices. It's the reason you can walk into a room and have any sense at all of who you are. The problem isn't that you have an ego. The problem is when it outgrows its healthy function, when it stops being a tool and starts running the whole operation. And here's what that looks like in practice. An overgrown ego doesn't just want to exist, it wants to be right. It wants recognition, it wants control. And when it doesn't get those things, it doesn't just feel disappointed, it feels threatened and it reacts, sometimes with anger. Sometimes with withdrawal, sometimes with that particular kind of locked up certainty that shuts every door around you. And that's the thing about defensiveness. From the inside, it's almost invisible. When you're in it, it feels completely justified. It feels like standing your ground. It feels like protecting something real. Because from the inside, it is real. That threat feels real. The identity feels real. The reaction feels necessary. I've had a version of this in my own life. For a long time, one of the core things that I believed about myself was that I was capable, competent, someone who didn't need to be managed or corrected. That identity ran pretty deep. It had been a part of how I operated in ministry and in music and most of the things that I did. So anytime someone offered a critique, even something small, even something practical, it didn't land as helpful feedback. It landed as a threat to that picture. My reaction wasn't about the thing being discussed, it was about what the discussion touched. So here's a concrete example. Someone once made a comment about the way I was handling a routine household task. Nothing significant, nothing that should have set anything off. But my chest tightened immediately, and I wanted to push back. The thoughts kept circling. And I couldn't figure out why something that small had that kind of a grip on me. When I finally looked at it, really looked at it, what I found was that doing it my way was part of how I saw myself. Capable, independent, not needing direction. And the comment, however mild, landed on that identity like a finger on a bruise. My ego didn't hear feedback on a task. It heard a threat to who I am. That distinction sounds small, but I think it changes everything. Because once you see that your defensiveness isn't about what they said, it's about what that comment touched in your identity, you have something that you didn't have before. A gap, a small space between the trigger and the reaction. And in that gap, there's a choice. Most people never find that gap. They go straight from trigger to reaction. No pause, no awareness, no choice. It's like a switch gets flipped and they're just gone, running a pattern they didn't write, defending a position they didn't consciously choose. But the gap is there, and the practice is about learning how to find it. By the way, if this is landing, would you please hit subscribe? It tells YouTube that this kind of content belongs in front of people who need it, and honestly, it helps more than you'd think. Now, I'm not going to claim to know exactly why this one works the way it does. I just know that for me, it's the thing that actually started to create some space. So here's what I've found. Here's the practice. The next time you feel that familiar surge, the tightness, the speed, that urge to push back, pause. Now don't try to stop the reaction. Don't try to talk yourself out of it. Just pause and ask yourself one question. Is this about what they just said, or is it something in me feeling threatened? You don't need an answer right away. The question itself creates the gap. That's where the freedom is, not in the answer, but in the space between the trigger and your response. And then breathe. One breath. In through the nose, slow. Out through the mouth, a little slower. That one breath doesn't end the moment. It doesn't dissolve the tension. But it does one thing. It buys you enough time to choose your next move instead of just running that pattern. And then, not in the heat of it, but after, come back to it. Ask yourself, what was actually being threatened there? Not your opinion, not your position, something deeper. Name it if you can, because the moment you can name it, it loses some of its hold. It stops running in the background and starts showing up in front of you, where you can actually work with it. Okay, what we just walked through, the persona, the ego, the shadow, the gap, this is the beginning of understanding how your reactive patterns actually work. Not as a character flaw, not as a personality problem, as a protection response that once made sense and now needs to evolve. And if you want the full framework right now, the calm method, the practices, the whole thing, my book, From Reactive to Resilient, is linked in the description. In the next video, we're going to go deeper into conditioned thought patterns, the ones running on autopilot beneath everything else, because that's where most of this actually lives. And again, would you please hit the like button? It helps other people navigating this find the video. And if you recognized one of your own patterns in what we just covered, which moment came to mind when I asked you to think of one? Tell me in the comments. I'll read every single one, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.